Good morning in the Americas, good evening in Asia, good afternoon in Europe and Africa. It's exactly 4 p.m. here in Nairobi, time for Citizen TV Briefs. My name is Jimmy Mbogo. Let's get you informed on some of the stories making headlines across the country. Now, the United Opposition says it will name its 2027 presidential flag bearer to face President William Ruto upon conclusion of the DCP National Delegates Conference. Speaking during the Democratic Party National Delegates Conference at Ufungamano House, Nairobi County, the leaders also announced that they are instituting legal proceedings against perpetrators of attacks against DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua in a church in Othaya.
I want to give my commitment and that of DCP that we shall make whatever sacrifices necessary to have one presidential candidate to make William Ruto one term.
We are going to call for one forum for all the one-term movement candidates everywhere in the country to get together and agree, because that is how we are now also going to bolster our voter registration numbers.
Anyone who's betting for our differences, you will lose your bet. You will lose your bet. We are going to stand together and we are going to remain united.
Tuko pamoja as united opposition with one common purpose: kuleta uongozi bora katika nchi yetu, kuleta uongozi wa mwongozo ya kisheria.
Vile DP mnasema umoja na haki. Our unity is not a choice, it's an imperative. Kama tunamtoa Kasongo one term, lazima tuungane hadi mwisho na tutoe mmoja wetu.
The Democratic Party stands ready to play its part. I want to assure you, the United Opposition stands firm. The people of Kenya are awake. History will judge us not by what we said, but by whether we rose when the nation needed us most.
And to education matters, where the Ministry of Education now says it has achieved a 96% transition rate for grade 10 learners. Now, CS Julius Ogamba informed members of parliament that despite the challenges that plagued the 2-week exercise, nearly all regions in the country registered over 94% transition rate, apart from the Coast region, which had an 89% rate of its grade 10 learners grade 9 learners move to grade 10. Now, at the same time, the CS says that there is a 48.3 billion shillings deficit in the financing of basic education in the country.
The amounts that we indicated as capitation for the government, that is giving the 1,540, the 15,000 and the 22,000, was arrived at after a task force was established, and they did an analysis and came up with those figures. Having said that, Honorable Mbowe, the simple answer to your question is that we actually, as a country, do not know how much it costs to educate a child from grade 1 all the way to university. And I'll explain to you the reason, and members, since we are all here as leaders, it is good to interrogate these things.
And still on education matters, where education stakeholders have raised concerns over senior secondary school learners being turned away as data collection continues across the country. Stakeholders say many learners expected to join grade 10 are being denied admission for lack of fees or uniform, contrary to President William Ruto's directive. They report that 55% of students are yet to be admitted nationwide, with Nairobi, Kakamega and Busia County most affected. They are calling on the President and the Ministry of Education to order schools to admit students on fee installments, allow parents to buy uniforms from local producers.
A lot has been happening from the directive that shared from the President that transition all the kids are supposed to go. And glad you came and saw there's so many kids at home. Transition is not there. We saw all this. This is just a few of young boys and girls in Embakasi North. The transition is just there. The way we shall say, we have difference between policy and difference on the ground. So this is the situation on the ground. Watoto wako home.
We started pushing for the 100% transition, and that is because we realized that a majority of the children around here have not gone to school. My first request to the president is who is going to hold talks with the stakeholders? How will the community be embedded to ensure, because it's the community volunteers who are able to fetch the students out of their homes. So how are the stakeholders, even at the community level, going to be embedded to ensure that the 100% transition is taken to effect?
Anglican Church of Kenya Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit has condemned the attack at St. Peter's ACK Church in Witima Othaya in Nyeri County over the weekend, terming it unacceptable and calling for peace and respect for places of worship. Archbishop Sapit says that the incident points to an erosion of the democratic space that Kenyans fought for, urging President William Ruto not to allow such acts to take root. Now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was attending a church service at the time of the incident on Sunday. Archbishop Ole Sapit spoke while officiating the launch of a mental health guide for religious leaders in Mombasa aimed at strengthening the role of faith institutions in identifying and addressing mental health challenges.
We want to join the bishop of that diocese and the Christians and Kenyans at large to condemn that barbaric action of storming into a church space, tear gassing the worshippers in their worship hour. It was very, very unfortunate. We have seen vehicle and property destroyed, and it was a moment where people had a solemn worship in a church. And now the worrisome part is they normally present themselves as good, but we ask a question: who has a custody of tear gas in this country other than the security apparatus? If tear gas is used in every or in any installation or institution, we have then no doubt who is using it, because it is only used by those people who hold it and who have it. So I want to urge every apparatus and system of this country, from the executive, the presidency, all the way to anyone who gives orders, and particularly the security agencies, to give the church a proper report and an account of what happened.
Now, 15 new judges of the Court of Appeal were sworn in at State House, Nairobi, in a ceremony presided over by President William Ruto. The new appeal court judges include President Ruto's longtime lawyer, Katwa Kigen, and Ahmed Isaac Hassan, who is the outgoing chairperson of IPOA. Others include Matthews Nduma Nderi, Lynette Mumu Ndolo, Chacha Mwita, among others. The appointment made yesterday now raises the number of judges at the Court of Appeal from 27 to 42. President William Ruto says the expanded bench is expected to deepen the judiciary's ability to adjudicate complex legal and constitutional matters with greater efficiency ahead of the 2027 general election.
Improved resourcing and strengthened welfare. Kenyans rightly expect faster case resolution, consistent and coherent jurisprudence, and decisions that reflect both constitutional fidelity and a genuine appreciation of the lived realities of our people. The authority entrusted to judges is immense, and it must be exercised with diligence, wisdom, restraint, and uncompromising commitment to justice, as I have heard each and every one of you take the oath of office.
And to health matters, where Health CS Eden Duale now says that the government is tracking down all perpetrators involved in the 11 billion shilling Social Health Authority scandal, saying that most of the cases reported between October 2024 to April 2025 were related to fraudulent surgeries. Speaking in Naivasha during a National Assembly's retreat in Naivasha, Duale said action had been taken to over 50 medics who were involved in the scandal, with their SHA authorization withdrawn.
In case members have issues with the headline of today, On the headline, the 11 billion are the rejections I've told you. Those are money lost in the sense that they have claimed we have found them. They are remitting. Some of them are going to court. Some of them have agreed to return back our money. And we have not finished. We have, I don't want to, there are some things that belong to the criminal justice system. I don't want to speak for. I have the whole list. The biggest junk is the private hospitals, followed by the county hospitals, followed by the National Referral Hospital, including Kenyatta, MTRH. The lowest is with the faith-based hospitals.
And away from that to the High Court, which has dismissed a compensation case filed by victims and families affected by the 1998 Nairobi bomb blast, ruling that the petition lacked legal merit. Now, in the judgment, the court held that the petitioners failed to prove that the government had prior intelligence that could have prevented the attack. Justice Lawrence Mugambi, while acknowledging the immense suffering endured by survivors and bereaved families, he emphasized that sympathy could not replace the legal threshold required to establish state liability. The ruling deals a blow to victims who have lived with injuries, trauma, and economic hardship for over 2 decades. They expressed disappointment with the decision and confirmed that they will appeal to a higher court.
Failed to prove the respondents acted in a manner so as to endanger lives of the persons who died out of the bomb attack. There being no liability on the part of the respondents as discussed above, the issue as to whether the rights and fundamental freedoms of the petitioners as pleaded in the petition subject to this judgment were infringed as a result of the persons who died during the bomb does not arise. For the reasons aforesaid, I find the petition lacks merit and I hereby dismiss the same in its entirety.
Basically, we were coming to court to tell the court the U.S. government has compensated its citizens. Why are you not compensating Kenyan victims?
Correct. It has been dismissed, whatever that means, I mean, we have been dismissed. We have been dismissed to a bomb that happened that does not need evidence. It happened, the bomb happened. So because it happened, were people around? We are the people who are around. What other evidence does anyone need?
Bishops from United Clergy Alliance have condemned the recent violence which was witnessed in Nyeri, where faithfuls were tear-gassed during a church service attended by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The clergy said that the altar signifies a sacred point of divine intervention where souls are nourished by the word of God, where repentance is formed and reconciliation with God takes place, but not a place of war. They called on all the leaders to respect the place of worship and urged the government to deal with the perpetrators.
And stakeholders to respect and preserve the holiness of the sacred places. It is alarming that worshippers in Kenya now feel the veiling government they entrusted with leadership and protection. Fear the veiling government they entrusted with leadership and protection. This must not be allowed to continue.
Mahali pa usalama ni kanisani. Na kanisani ni mahali amba kasisi akipata mwizi ako na vitu, kasisi ako na ruhusa ya kuchukua huyo mwizi na kumwambia salenda vitu vyote ambayo umeimba naso kwa serikali na muongoze toba amini kwenda mbinguni. Kwa hiyo tunaomba serikali isimame kutetea kanisa kama vile tunaombea serikali na vile tunaombea wananchi.
Now, Machakos University, in collaboration with the Independence Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has launched a voter registration campaign targeting students across universities and colleges in the region. The initiative aims to ensure that all eligible students are registered in time for the 2027 general election. President of Machakos University, Ashley Chepkoech, said the exercise will enable students who often miss registration due to busy schedules or distance from IEBC centers centers to enlist. IEBC officials confirmed that students can choose their preferred voting location, making the process more accessible and accommodating.
We are one as leaders to ensure that the coming election we are able to be the part of the change that we want in this country.
This is to ease the burden of maybe transport and the cost that is encouraging the process of kwenda kuchukua kura pahali pengine. So we are asking all students around Machakos University that they come and register as voters so that they can get the right to choose for whoever leader they want.
Hii shughuli inaendelea hapa. Nimeona ni shughuli nzuri. Wanafunzi watakuwa bila kutembea mahali kwingine, wanakuja wanachukua mahali pamoja, na hii shughuli tutaiweza kuisambaza katika mashule zingine na campuses zingine.
Now, families of Kenyan victims of Russia army recruitment are now demanding that the government facilitates repatriation of Kenyans who have died in the war and those who are alive and wish to come back home. Speaking during a press conference, the families and human rights groups from Vocal Africa also appealed to the Kenyan embassy in Russia in conjunction with the Russian embassy in Kenya to compile and release verified statistics of the number of Kenyans who have traveled to Russia for the past 1 year to establish the true scale of the crisis.
Recently, the government of Kenya publicly announced a policy to facilitate opportunities for Kenyans to work abroad in search of better lives. While this policy was presented as a pathway to dignity and employment, it has been grossly misused by unscrupulous agents and criminal networks.
Aliondoka akasema atapeana pesa, hakuna pesa yoyote ambayo ametuma mpaka wa leo. Mtoto ndio huyo, tunahangaika tujui tufanyeje. So mimi ninalilia tu serikali. Serikali tu ndio ambayo ninalilia mimi. Nimuone bwanangu either amekufa, either yuko mzima, afadhali tu wamlete tuone tu hata mwili wake.
Kenya has a constitutional and moral duty to protect its citizens, both locally and abroad. In the case of recruitment into the Russian army, whether Kenyans took up these jobs knowingly or unknowingly, the responsibility of the state remains unchanged. Citizenship does not end at the border.
All right, and that's all we have for you on Citizen TV Briefs at this hour. More details will be coming your way later on at 7 p.m. and at 9 on JKL Live. Thank you for watching. My name is Jimmy Mbogo.